Chapter 358. Host, you still have half a year. Tang Guo was scrolling through Weibo. Although she wasn't acting anymore, she still scrolled through Weibo every day. Her fans realized that Tang Guo was more fun when she wasn't acting, so they didn't feel conflicted and started to joke about her on Weibo all day. So fast. Tang Guo paused, put down her phone and stood up. She drew the curtains and looked at the world outside. She was going to leave this place soon. She picked up her phone again and called Xiao Nai. Guo Guo, do you have anything you want today? Tang Guo smiled. Nai, I suddenly want to go out for a walk. Do you want to come? You deserve a sweet trip. Yes. After hanging up the phone, Tang Guo made a trip plan and found a crew to accompany her. Xiao Nai hurried back. He didn't see the woman playing with her phone on the sofa as usual. Instead, he smelled the aroma of food from the kitchen. He hurried into the kitchen and was surprised to see Tang Guo cooking. Plates of exquisite delicacies were placed next to him, which really surprised him. He thought that he had spoiled her, but he didn't expect her to be even better than he had imagined. I'm used to being served by you. I'm a little rusty. Xiao Nai hurried over and wanted to take the spatula. Let me do it. Be careful not to spill the oil and burn you. No, I'll do it. It's almost finished. Tang Guo smiled. I said I would treat you better. Xiao Nai was stunned. He didn't expect her to be so serious. He did feel that Tang Guo's attitude towards him was getting better and better. At first, she didn't care much about him, but later on, she made all his clothes custom-made for him. Every little accessory was carefully chosen by her. Many people thought that he spoiled her, but in fact, she was spoiling him too. When she said she was good to someone, she really meant it. When she said she liked him a little, he saw that in her eyes. When she said she would abandon her feelings for Suhi, she really did forget about him without hesitation. She was ruthless and passionate. She was really fascinating and he couldn't help but fall for her. Nai, are you happy with me? Of course. Tang Guo narrowed her eyes. Oh, if I'm gone, will you be sad? Yes. Xiao Nai was a little nervous. He wrapped his arms around her waist and whispered, You're leaving me? Have you taken a fancy to someone else? He looked like an abandoned puppy. No. Tang Guo said, I don't like anyone else, and I can't find anyone in this world who is better than you and can move me more. Xiao Nai heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. But the world has birth, aging, sickness, and death. This is something that no one can stop. You and I, one of us will die first. Xiao Nai was stunned for a moment before he smiled and said, It's okay. Speaking of this, Tang Guo forgot to ask the system about Xiao Nai's lifespan. Tongzi, what's the longest lifespan of Xiao Nai? 80 years old. Tang Guo smiled. Then he's really unlucky. Who didn't like him? Why did he have to like her? Tang Guo's cooking was better than he had imagined, but Xiao Nai still said, Don't cook in the future. It'll hurt your hands. He carefully helped her apply the hand cream. There was a faint smile on his face and his eyes were filled with tenderness. Looking at how serious and sincere she was, he only saw her as a rare treasure. Tang Guo habitually messed up his hair. Xiao Nai held her messy hand and said calmly, Before we go on the trip, let's go to the hospital for a checkup. He might suspect that I have a terminal illness. Tang Guo smiled and discussed with the system. As expected of a director, he's really good at imagining things. Chapter 359. After receiving the health report, Xiao Nai heaved a sigh of relief. He pretended to be calm as he held Tang Guo's hand. Following that, the entire nation witnessed a torturous trip. Every day, Tang Guo would update her Weibo with photos of her and Xiao Nai's trip. In the photos, the two of them were smiling sweetly. Especially in some of the videos, one could see how much chemistry they had. When Suhi was free, he would sit in the villa and read Tang Guo's Weibo. He read one post after another. As he scrolled down, he was surprised to find that the person mentioned on Weibo a long time ago was not Xiao Nai, but him. Every post was filled with love. This discovery made his heart burn with passion. Thinking about the current situation, he felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over him. One morning half a year later, Tang Guo leaned against Xiao Nai. The two of them sat on a rock and waited for the sun to rise. Qiao Nai hugged the person beside him tightly. His body was trembling and his voice was trembling. He forced a smile and said something strange. Medical science is not advanced at all now. You checked it so carefully. Tang Guo listened to his complaints in amusement. She hugged his waist. You're too noisy. Then I won't talk. Forget it. You can talk. I'll listen. Qiao Nai hugged her and kissed her forehead, then her cheeks. Finally, he kissed her lips. He touched them gently and then left. I feel like my heart is missing a corner. It seems like it can't be repaired. Anai, don't be so greedy. In these 10 years, I've only been good to you. I haven't even looked at anyone else. Qiao Nai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I can't help it. He couldn't help it. He wanted to spend more time with her. Anai, just take it that you're leaving the rest of your time for your next life. Guo Guo, you really don't know how to comfort people. Every word you say breaks my heart. But he couldn't help it. He just liked her. Without her, his entire life had lost its color. He pressed his chin against her forehead and whispered, in my next life, will I still be able to find you? If you're sincere, it'll happen. Then I'll work hard. Tang Guo smiled. You, who won't have any memories in your next life, will start another life. As for her, she would continue to reincarnate endlessly. She did not know when the end would come. She buried herself in his arms, a little greedy for the taste of this kind of love. Only an unforgettable feeling would allow her to continue on this lonely journey and not lose herself midway. In return, she would give him the purest feelings and leave him with the most beautiful love. Just like now, knowing that she was about to leave this place, she was not at all afraid of what the next world would be, nor did she have any feeling of weariness. She narrowed her eyes and suddenly thought of something. She raised her head and kissed him. Their eyes met, and this time, Qiao Nai could clearly see the love in her eyes. RNI, I'm leaving. The woman's voice rang softly in his ear. Qiao Nai was so shocked that he hurriedly hugged her and said painfully, Guo Guo, can I say no? Can I not listen to you this time? Looking at the woman's tightly shut eyes, he cried softly and gently caressed her cheek. Why are you leaving so easily? I've really spoiled you. His eyes were red, and he looked doting and helpless. He patted her shoulder gently. Okay, I'll listen to you, okay? The filming crew behind couldn't help but cover their mouths and quickly take out tissues to wipe their tears. If this wasn't their job, they would definitely turn around and leave. Chapter 360. Qiao Nai didn't post anything on Weibo. He didn't want those people to disturb her. In the end, Zhu Yi posted something on Weibo, saying that Tang Guo had passed away. No matter what, as Tang Guo's manager, she had to inform the public. Su He habitually checked his microblog when he was taking a break from work. When he saw the words Tang Guo passed away due to illness, all the blood in his body flowed backwards. His face instantly turned pale, and he almost fell down. Best actor Su, are you okay? Su He held his phone with trembling hands. He grabbed the person beside him and asked, she's gone. This is fake, right? The others also just found out that the best actress of the generation, Tang Guo, had passed away. They were silent in response to Su He's question. Su He found the director and said, I'm sorry, I need to take a day off. They all knew that Su He checked Weibo every day to see Tang Guo. The director had allowed it. Su He didn't change his clothes or remove his makeup. He just drove to Qiao Nai's villa. When he arrived, there were already many people there. Qiao Nai stood at the door, looking very gloomy. He was even gloomier than before he met Tang Guo. Liang Chao and his wife stood at the side, looking sad too. Zhu Yi's eyes were red and she couldn't help but cry. Can I see her? Su He made this request and successfully attracted Qiao Nai's attention. Qiao Nai glanced at him. No. Su He smiled bitterly. I'm asking for too much. He didn't know why he was there. Just as he was about to ask something, a group of reporters came. He frowned and quickly realized that these reporters were invited by Qiao Nai. Director Qiao, what are you going to announce? Qiao Nai walked to the front expressionlessly. I'm going to announce the truth. Suhee vaguely felt that something wasn't right. He stood silently at the side. Chao Nai glanced at him and continued to speak to the reporters. Back then, you were all over the place reporting that Guogua betrayed Suhee and all kinds of negative things. Well, Director Chao, we all retracted the reports. The truth proved that Tang Tang was innocent, the reporter said quickly. They couldn't afford to offend her. She was the daughter of the family. They wanted to report more, but they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to keep their jobs. Chao Nai sneered, you also think that Guogua betrayed Suhee, right? Even if you know that she's the eldest daughter of the Tang family, you'll still think that she chose me because she looked down on Suhee, right? Was that not the case? Suhee suddenly raised his head and looked at Chao Nai. He pursed his lips tightly. Was this not the truth? Chao Nai took out his phone and played a recording. It was copied from the surveillance camera in his office. He didn't expect to use it here. He knew that this was what she wanted to do. Even if she didn't order it, with her vengeful personality, she definitely didn't want Sue to reconcile. Suhee and Bai Wen ruined her reputation. If it weren't for the reality show and the exposure of her background, she wouldn't have been able to survive in this circle as an ordinary actress. After listening to the recording, everyone fell silent. It turned out that the truth between you and me was Chao Nai's apology to Tang Guo. You can leave now. Suhee crazily shouted that he wanted to see Tang Guo. How could Chao Nai satisfy him? He called the security guards to drive him out. She was his, and no one was allowed to see her. Suhee sat outside the villa and cried for a long time. He was in a sorry state. He thought of many reasons, but he never thought that this would be the reason. She actually agreed to Chao Nai's request because of him. He even found people to slander her, trying to make her unable to make a comeback. He even thought of really destroying her. Thinking of the things hidden in the villa, he started to cry. At that time, he really wanted to destroy her. How could he think of injecting her with that thing? He even thought of giving her to those fat old men. He was really disgusting. He was really evil. He let her down. No wonder she completely forgot about him. He didn't deserve it. Chapter 361. He wanted to see her fall and watch her regret from above. He completely ignored the way she came back to him and tried to explain herself. He called her disgusting and cheap. Now, he regretted it as much as he scolded her back then. His heart was dirty, and his soul was dirty. He thought that he had climbed to where he was today with his own efforts. So what if she betrayed him? He succeeded, but reality slapped him hard in the face. If it weren't for her, Chao Nai would never have let him go. Suhee stayed outside the villa for several days. In the end, he was taken away when he fainted. A few days after he was taken away, someone reported that Suhee was hiding something in the villa and he was arrested. Bai Wen, who had not appeared in public for 10 years and was obese and pale, was also photographed. Bai Wen's dodging appearance was captured by someone. After the public saw it, they only felt weak. Chao Nai looked at the serene Tang Guo. The corners of his mouth were slightly curled up, and there was some warmth in his eyes. Are you satisfied? He really didn't expect Suhee to have such thoughts in the beginning. Did you know about it from the beginning? That's why you completely forgot about Suhee and were so decisive. Guogua, you're really a bad woman. You left so decisively and left me with such a person who needs to be taught a lesson. You knew that I wouldn't be soft-hearted, so you left those clues, right? You didn't want to see Suhee again and make him restless for the rest of his life, right? If I didn't wake up in time, I'm afraid you wouldn't have given me those 10 years of beautiful days. Chao Nai bent down and looked at her seriously and sincerely. But I like women like you. In a world without you, the blood stops flowing, and the withered grass will never be reborn. Staring at the woman's face, Chao Nai felt a pain in his brain. Countless memories flooded into his mind. When he opened his eyes again, the sorrow in his eyes was much less, leaving more helplessness. He touched the woman's cheek and kissed her forehead out of habit. It's really torturous. I owe you. He stood up with a different smile on his face. After arranging everything, he sat beside Tang Guo. He took one last look at her and closed his eyes with a faint smile. A few days later, Xiao Yi's assistant announced that Xiao Yi had passed away. Suhi saw the news in the detention center and was stunned for a long time. Host: Xiao Nai committed suicide by taking medicine. Why bother? Our Nai is still so cute. He's so cute that I can't bear to part with him. What a pitiful puppy. Tangwa lay in the heavenly spring and looked at the silver light around her that was getting brighter and brighter. She slowly closed her eyes. Wake me up in 3 days. I'm a little tired. I'm going to sleep. Okay. The system secretly wiped its cold sweat. There was something wrong with Xiao Nai, but since he was already dead, there was no need for the host to worry about it. When Tangwa woke up, she felt sticky all over, and the air was filled with the smell of blood and all kinds of rotten things. Without opening her eyes, she knew that this was not a good place. Sure enough, when he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw were a few ugly zombies that were crookedly looking for food around him. She, who hadn't received her memories, found that the zombie didn't attack her. She looked at her body again and found that it was intact. Fortunately, it wasn't an ugly zombie. Tongzi, did this body awaken the ability to be compatible with zombies? The system was silent for a while and told the truth. Host, let me tell you some unfortunate news. You are now a zombie. Chapter 362. Tangwa frowned and took out a mirror to look at herself. She had arched eyebrows, almond eyes, a straight nose, cherry lips, and rosy skin. She didn't look like a zombie at all. That's also the best-looking zombie. Yes, the most beautiful one. Host, do you want to look at the memories? Since she was a zombie, Tangwa found a clean stool to sit on and started to look at the memories. This world was an apocalyptic world. The original name of this book was Tang Tang's Survival in the Apocalypse. It sounded like a Mary Sue book. The owner of this body was the protagonist of this apocalypse. But after a reader of this book transmigrated to this world, she became the evil female supporting lead here. Yang Nian was the female lead of this world. She had read Tang Tang's Survival in the Apocalypse and complained that the female lead had too much halo. She also thought that the female lead was too cold to survive in the apocalypse. Since she had obtained the jade pendant and cultivation techniques, why didn't she take them out to save the world? When she woke up the next day, Yang Nian transmigrated to a female supporting lead who was also called Yang Nian but ended up in a very miserable state. Because she failed to seduce Yang Yi, she was thrown out of the base and raped to death. In order to change her fate, Yang Nian planned to get the jade pendant before the original owner discovered its use. She knew what had happened in the book. She got a lot of supplies and drove to the original owner and her fiancé Yang Yi's villa. Yang Yi had a high fever and the original owner was anxious. Yang Nian's arrival made her see the light. Yang Nian promised to give the original owner supplies and medicine in exchange for the jade pendant around the original owner's neck. In order to save her fiancé's life, the original owner agreed and gave the family jade pendant to Yang Nian. Yang Nian was still worried after getting the jade pendant. Yang Yi was actually awakening his abilities. In order to avoid being killed by Yang Yi and the original owner in the future, she decided to separate them. She told the original owner that there was a pharmacy not far from here. There were many medicines inside that might be helpful to Yang Yi. If she wanted to get them, she could help watch Yang Yi here. The original owner didn't think too much. Saving people was more important. She hurriedly left the villa to get the medicine. After she left, Yang Nian took Yang Yi away. When Yang Yi woke up, he asked her where she had gone. Yang Nian said that she had only seen him unconscious in the villa, so she had brought him along. Yang Yi thought that he was abandoned by his beloved fiancé, and since then he hated the original owner. After working with Yang Nian countless times, the two of them gradually developed feelings for each other. Yang Yi doted on Yang Nian to the heavens, but at the same time, he didn't forget that he once had a fiancé who abandoned him. The original owner went to the pharmacy and was bitten by a zombie. She didn't know why she didn't turn into a disgusting zombie, but she did turn into a zombie. Later, when he returned, he found that Yang Yi was not there. He thought that zombies had taken over this place and Yang Yi had been taken away. Later, she found Yang Yi after thousands of miles, But when she saw him and Yang Nian being lovey-dovey, she collapsed. No matter how she explained that she was going to get the medicine, Yang Yi did not believe her. Her fiancé, who was once gentle to her, was only good to another woman. He was cold to her, and his eyes were about to kill her. After countless explanations, countless misunderstandings, and countless cold treatment, the original owner finally gave up. When she gave up, Yang Yi didn't let her go. The other base found out that Yang Nian had a secret and attacked the Sunshine base built by Yang Yi. They also had very advanced firearms. If he didn't hand Yang Nian over, they would blow up the Sunshine base. Chapter 363. In order to protect the base, Yang Yi handed the original owner over to the Sunset base and pointed out that she was Yang Nian. Yang Nian was taken away in despair and faced with cold cuts. Her body was very special. After being cut countless times, she would always regenerate, so no one suspected that she wasn't Yang Nian. After more than a year of research, there was no problem. The person in charge of the Sunset base, Shecheng, appeared and asked her what her secret was. The original owner only said, "My name is Tang Guo, not Yang Nian. I was Yang Yi's fiancé." Shecheng was silent for a long time and finally asked, "Then why can you regenerate?" "I'm a zombie." Her eyes were dim as if she had lost hope. "I don't know either." "Go." Shecheng let her go. She didn't return to the Sunshine base but hid among the zombies. Once, Yang Yi was surrounded by zombies and was about to be eaten by mutated zombies, but she still couldn't bear to save him. Putting him in a safe place, she returned to the zombies and stayed with them all day. Many years later, Yang Yi brought an integrated team and weapons to kill zombies to the last zombie hill. He aimed the gun at her head and wanted to kill her with one shot. Shecheng persuaded at this time, "She's not bad. She saved you and was your fiancé. She's just a traitor," Yang Yi said. Before Shecheng could stop him, she was shot in the head. Actually, she had a chance to escape, but she didn't want to. She didn't know the length of her life. She, who had lost hope, didn't know why she wanted to live. Since she didn't have a goal to live, why not destroy herself? As for Yang Nian and Yang Yi, they welcomed the new light and lived happily together. Yang Yi and Shecheng divided the world into two, each taking charge of one side. Tang Guo didn't feel good after reading the memory. She rubbed her temples. It's another troublesome world. Now, she turned into a zombie in the pharmacy and was about to take the medicine back to Yang Yi. She glanced at a pocket in the corner. It was full of medicine. The original owner is so stupid. She sneered. This kind of disobedient bitch, just torture her. If you're dead, you'll have nothing. Those who are alive will still live in glory. Stupid. Since I've been regarded as a bad person, why not be a bad person to the end? Tang Guo narrowed her eyes. With the current strength of this body, it's really too easy to crush Yang Yi. The system hurriedly reminded her, "Dear host, if you crush Yang Yi, there will be no more fun. We will go directly to the next world." The male and female leads couldn't die in the plot unless the plot about them ended. "I didn't want to directly crush Yang Yi." Tang Guo took out a tissue and wiped off the dirt on her body. Her voice was faint, "It's just a sigh. You obviously have such a powerful strength. What can't you change? You just have to give up on yourself." I don't know what kind of education the original owner received to have such a masochistic personality. The system heaved a sigh of relief. The host must be complaining. "Right, host, what should we do now? I want to take a hot bath first." Tang Guo frowned in disdain. Although her face was considered clean, her body was dirty all over. In addition to blood, there was also zombie body fluid. The smell was disgusting. "Then I'll go easy on you." The system hurriedly said, "The host's happiness is the most important." Chapter 364. Bang! Tang Guo punched the thick iron door. The iron door, which could not be broken even with tools, was suddenly punched through. Seeing the dark hole, she laughed out loud, "It's a little strong." The system swallowed its saliva. It was a little strong, but it had never heard of a zombie who could punch a hole in an iron door. Tang Guo carefully checked her body. In addition to her appearance, Her body functions were different from ordinary people. There was also something like a crystal nucleus in her brain. She could mobilize the energy in the crystal nucleus. She could also use her own method to absorb energy from the outside world to increase her strength. In other words, as long as she continued to improve, no one would be her opponent. Not to mention Yang Yi, it was not impossible to beat everyone. This body was a reborn body. As long as she did not seek death, she was completely invincible. Tang Guo pushed the door open and walked out with satisfaction. Those swaying zombies saw her and quickly hid behind. They obviously did not have any consciousness, as if they were very afraid. Her heart moved and she tried to communicate with these zombies. As soon as she sent out her thoughts, the zombies around her quickly rushed to her. They had the appearance of a pug, and their tattered faces even had a flattering expression. There were even a few zombies, who handed the food they found to her, as if they were filial to her. Tang Guo glanced at their dirty hands, holding all kinds of internal organs. She was very disgusted. You guys eat it. Faced with Tang Guo's rejection, they looked disappointed and left dejectedly. After a while, they came in front of Tang Guo again. This time, what was handed to Tang Guo was not food, but all kinds of golden necklaces and bracelets. They also stared straight at the bracelets on Tang Guo's wrist, as if to say, "Do you like these?" Tang Guo was speechless for a moment. Were zombies also flattering these days? Host, you used your thoughts to communicate with them. They should be influenced by you and have more consciousness. In their eyes, you are their everything. Of course, they want you to be happy. Sob, sob, sob. He seemed to have found a like-minded partner. Tang Guo accepted all kinds of jewelry they had collected. The zombies were so happy that they shook even harder. If it was only one zombie, it would be fine, but more than 20 zombies shook together. It was as if all of them were convulsing. Tang Guo looked at them and had a bold idea in her heart. Why did you kill all the zombies? If you kill all the zombies, won't you kill me as well? According to the original lifespan of the original owner of this book, it should be relatively long, right? Yes, according to the original timeline, the original owner of the body could live for more than 300 years as a psychic. Tang Guo narrowed her eyes. But now, the entire human race wants to kill me. Why don't I establish a zombie empire and occupy one side of Earth? Humans can also live in my zombie empire. Zombies were originally transformed from humans. It wasn't their intention to become like this. This is just a natural disaster. Why can't we zombies survive in this world? Why can't we rule a piece of land? This place belongs to us in the first place. System. The host's thinking is very fast. She is thinking for the zombie race. However, a zombie empire, it still sounds interesting. Tong, what do you think? He raised his hands in support. He didn't seem to have hands. Chapter 365. In the following time, Tang Guo didn't leave the pharmacy. Instead, she studied the zombies in front of her. Other than being different from humans, they were very obedient and seemed to be a few years old. Tang Guo told them not to eat raw meat, human flesh, or bite people casually, but they really didn't go. She believed that the 20 or so zombies in front of her could be her senior subordinates. She couldn't hide and develop a zombie group. She still had to go to Yang Yi. How could she provoke conflict if she didn't go? She wanted to see if Yang Yi would believe Yang Nian or her this time. This could also be considered a chance to start over. Regarding starting over, she liked to give people a chance. If the other party didn't cherish it, she could be merciless. Is the group still there? Tang Guo suddenly asked. She didn't enter the group in the previous world, but she knew that the group hadn't disappeared. System, it's still there. Other than Ji Xiaoxi who disappeared, everyone else is still there. They aren't ordinary people and have lived for a long time. Even those in the star plane can live for thousands of years. When the host wasn't around, I took over your account. They all know that you're very busy. Tang Guo glanced at the group. The people inside seemed to be discussing something. She sent a message. How have you guys been? Perfected Ziyun, school bell? You're here. Perfected Monarch Kai Xiao, wow, school bell, you haven't appeared in so many years. You're finally here. I miss you so much. Everyone in the group said that they hadn't seen her for many years and missed her. After Tangguo sent them food red packets, she said, I went to another plane. I stayed in the previous plane for a short time. I just changed planes and ran into some trouble. I want to ask you for help. Wanderer Silver Ring, went to another plane? School bell, so you can really travel between planes. Everyone in the group was stunned. They thought that the school bell was bragging. They didn't expect it to be true. As for why, they didn't ask. Who didn't have a little secret? Margaret was very enthusiastic. I wonder where the school bell is. What can we help you with? They felt very bad about eating so much food for free. The school bell rarely asked them for help. She hadn't appeared for more than 10 years, so they thought that the school bell was in danger. Tangguo said, regarding this question, I guess we'll have to ask General Emmanuel and General Billy from the interstellar plane. The place I went to was a post-apocalyptic world where zombies had just broken out. If my guess is correct, Interstellar should have experienced the apocalypse and is no stranger to the zombie virus. Emmanuel, wow, is this the apocalyptic zombie outbreak world that has existed for a long time? School Beauty, what kind of help do you need now? Do you need a drug to kill zombies? I can ask someone to help develop it. Campus Bell, what effect does this drug have on zombies? Emmanuel felt that this was quite strange, but he still said, this is a medicine that can kill zombies. If used on zombies, the virus will be cleared, and all zombies will die. No, I don't need this kind of thing. Tangguo didn't even want to think about it and added, my body is now a zombie. Group members, the group was silent for a long time. Emmanuel finally asked, then, School Bell, what do you need? I plan to rule this planet as a zombie, or at least occupy a part of it. But I can't stand the way they bite people and eat their internal organs. It's a bit disgusting. Chapter 366. Tangguo explained the situation of her body, asking if there was a way to keep all the zombies in a normal state. Emmanuel, the Campus Bell's way of thinking is really different from ordinary people. I just looked through our interstellar records. Zombies can reach the state that the Campus Bell said through evolution. We haven't studied that kind of drug in the interstellar. According to interstellar history, the zombies on our side were the last ones to be killed. So, you mean that as long as they level up, they can regain their sanity? Yes, there are records of this in interstellar history. It is said that at that time, there were zombies who completely recovered their sanity. They looked similar to ordinary people. The baptism of the virus also brought them benefits. Their physical strength were stronger than human beings. It is also recorded that there was a recovered zombie who was not killed in the end. He hid and lived an ordinary life. Emmanuel didn't know why, but he compared this zombie with the Campus Bell and thought that the other party had no ambition at all and was a coward. Tangguo continued to ask, what do they need to level up? They don't have the consciousness to actively absorb energy. Emmanuel continued to look through the interstellar history. After a long time, he said excitedly, they can level up by eating crystal nuclei. According to the Campus Bell, the zombies have just broken out. There shouldn't be any second-level zombies yet, so there shouldn't be any crystal nuclei. Tangguo was silent for a moment and said, I have a lot. It wasn't the first time she came to the apocalypse, but it was different this time. She was muddle-headed and came to the apocalypse to play an excellent supporting role. Unfortunately, the status of the supporting role wasn't low, so she had a lot of crystal nuclei, all of which were placed in the system space as waste. After Tangguo left the group, the people in the group began to discuss. Ziyun Zhanren, I don't know when the Campus Bell will come to my plane. I really want to see her. Kai Xiao Zhanren, I second that. Demon Sovereign, I second that. Margaret, if the Campus Bell is willing to come to the magical world, I will prepare the best gift to welcome her. Harold, me too. Alan, I can personally make a holy sword for the Campus Bell. Emmanuel, Campus Bell should come to our interstellar world. You can enjoy the high tech that other planes can't. Tangguo faced the 20 or so zombies in front of her, who were sitting in rows, and took out many crystal cores of different colors from the system space. Different colors represented different attributes. Pick what you like. She only had a guess at first, but then she saw that every zombie basically chose one color, and only one person chose two colors. She was sure that this zombie who had chosen two different colored nuclei was a dual attribute zombie. The whole room was filled with the sound of zombies chewing on nuclei. Compared to watching them gnaw on organs, Tangwa felt that this scene was much more beautiful. She paid special attention to the zombie with two different attributes. According to her observation, this zombie's abilities were outstanding in all aspects, and could become a general under her, helping her to achieve her goal of ruling zombies. Therefore, she was not stingy and took out the high-level crystal core for him to swallow. Finally, a month later, a ray of light burst out from the zombie's body. Its originally tattered skin recovered its rosy color, and it looked almost like a human being. Its eyes also regained their luster. The moment he recovered, he came before Tangwa, knelt down on one knee, and respectfully called out, "Your Majesty." Chapter 367. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Wu Chu was the zombie who had regained his consciousness. He also remembered the past, but that wasn't important. The only thing he wanted to do was to be loyal to the woman in front of him, his king. Yes, I will definitely complete it. He would definitely create a zombie empire that would satisfy his king. She should stand at the top of this world. Tangwa took out a storage ring and threw it to him. These are the crystal nuclei I gave you in the early days. They are all under your command. In the future, if they are obedient, you can absorb them. If they are disobedient, kill them and dig out their crystal nuclei. All members of the team are not allowed to attack humans for no reason or eat internal organs. If there are humans who want to die, don't be polite. Just blow their heads off. Tangwa's mouth curved into a smile. She is a zombie, how can she harm the interests of the zombie race? But in order to live peacefully with humans in the future, she didn't intend to kill the innocent. She didn't want to turn the world into zombies. It was meaningless. After telling Wu Chu what to do, Tangwa set off. A month had passed. According to the original track, Yang Yi had become a very outstanding member of the Espers. Because of his interaction with Yang Nian, he gradually had a good impression of her. Currently, the two of them were in a small base, doing missions to kill zombies every day. The base they were in was called Base 7. It was a base built by the officials of a city. It had only been a month since the outbreak of zombies. Many people hadn't realized the chaos and were covered by panic. Many people were willing to have the protection of a base. Even Espers weren't that ambitious at this time. Tangwa flipped through the plot and decided on the place where she would appear. A food factory occupied by zombies. Yang Yi and Yang Nian confirmed their relationship at this time. There was a level 3 zombie here. At this time, most Espers were only level 2. The two of them had gone through life and death and realized that they were important to each other, so they were together. Tangwa arrived earlier than Yang Yi's sunshine team. She had already tamed the level 3 zombie in the food factory and was very obedient. He was rocking his body as he helped her cook instant noodles. While eating instant noodles, Tangwa threw a lot of crystal nuclei to the zombie. Eat them and level up quickly. In 2 days, 2 people will come to beat you up, in case you can't beat them. The zombie's dull eyes moved. He took the crystal nucleus and stuffed it into his mouth. It was as if he was born to understand the meaning of being beaten up. An ominous glint appeared in his eyes, and he became even more enthusiastic about eating the crystal cores. Within 2 days, the level 3 zombies became level 4 zombies. Although he still looked miserable on the surface, his agility and strength had increased a lot. For example, the speed of cooking noodles for Tangwa was much faster. After she finished eating, she found a clean place to lay down and chatted with the people in the group. He was extremely happy. Most of the food in the food factory had been taken away by her. She still left some for Yang Yi and the others. She didn't take any of the spicy strips. She left all the spicy strips for them. System, host, you're still naughty. 3 days passed like this. The system notified her that Yang Yi's sunshine team had arrived. Tangwa hadn't tamed the zombies outside. The Sunshine team had to kill the zombies before they could come in to take the food. Do you see that? It's the man and woman in front. Find a chance to beat them up later. Chapter 368. The zombies stared at Yang Nyan and Yang Yi fiercely. Both of them were creeped out, as if they were being stared at by something terrible. Brother Yang, be careful. Yang Nyan said worriedly. The world of zombies was really scary. If she hadn't gotten the jade pendant and practiced the technique inside, she wouldn't have ended up better than the original owner. She pulled Yang Yi's sleeve. I feel that it's very dangerous here. Let's go together. Yang Yi nodded. Looking at Yang Nyan's worried face, he couldn't help holding her hand. Don't worry. I'll protect you. Yang Nyan blushed and wanted to break free. Brother Yang, don't be like this. If Tangwa sees this, she'll be unhappy. After all, you're still an engaged couple. Don't mention her. Whether I can see her again or not, our relationship ended when she left. Yang Nyan didn't agree. Her eyes were wandering, but she was wondering if Tangwa was alive or dead. There were more than 20 zombies in the pharmacy. Tangwa hadn't awakened her ability yet. She might be in danger. No matter what, her fate had changed. There was no problem for her to survive. Yang Yi was an excellent man. Perhaps she could consider it. Tangwa was sitting in the dark. When she heard the conversation between the two, a faint smile appeared on her face. She was very unhappy. The Sunshine team fought their way into the food factory. When they saw countless packets of spicy strips, their expressions were twisted. Yang Yi frowned. They're all spicy strips. Yes, Captain. They're all spicy strips. We've searched many places. There's nothing else except spicy strips. I tasted it just now. It's dry and spicy. Yang Yi's expression was ugly. They spent 2 hours fighting their way in, but all they got were spicy strip. Is this a food factory that only produces spicy strips? Yang Nyan was a bit strange. How could such a big food factory only produce spicy strips? Yang Yi said, maybe someone came and took away the other food, leaving only these spicy strips. Spicy strips were quite appetizing, but in the apocalypse, they weren't nutritious. They didn't fill their stomachs. It wasn't a good thing for them, who were short on food. Nyan Nyan, keep the spicy strips in your space and sell them to others when we reach the base. Yang Nyan revealed his strength and space abilities. In fact, she was cultivating a cultivation method and had not awakened any special abilities. The space was just the space of the jade pendant. Just when everyone was collecting the spicy strips, there was a loud bang, and a zombie rushed in crazily. Level 3 zombie. The zombie's intelligence was already that of an 8-year-old. When he heard the other party call him a level 3 zombie, his eyes flashed. He remembered that the king had said that level 3 strength on the surface was enough. Later, the people on the other side would erupt with level 3 ability users. Then, he would beat this group of people up, pretend that he couldn't beat them, and run away. Although he didn't know why the king wanted him to do this, the king's words were the imperial edict. The zombie jumped into the crowd, grabbed a member of the Sunshine Squad with each hand, and casually threw them outside. He didn't understand why the king didn't want him to kill these people, but he didn't think too much about it. The king wanted him to beat up these 2 people who looked especially annoying. Tangwa moved a chair and sat in the dark, watching the zombie throw the Sunshine Squad outside, except for Yang Yi and Yang Nyan. Then she communicated with the scattered zombies outside and asked them to surround the food factory so that no one could come in. She looked deeply at Yang Yi and Yang Nyan and mouthed, "The game officially begins." Chapter 369. Boom. Boom. Brother Yang, are you okay? Yang Nyan quickly rolled to the other side. The zombie jumped high and slapped her away. She hit the wall hard and screamed. Yang Yi was beaten to the other side by the zombie. The 2 of them were in a sorry state with bruises all over their faces. Seeing the zombie walking towards Yang Nyan, Yang Yi couldn't help but reveal his level 3 power and rushed towards the zombie. He thought that it would be easy to fight a level 3 zombie. He didn't expect it. The zombie's eyes flashed with an ominous light. It ran very fast. It jumped up and kicked Yang Yi in the chest. It was a heavy blow. Yang Yi spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. He crashed heavily on the ground with a loud sound. Tang Guo was eating melon seeds and commented, "This move is clean and neat. Not bad." The zombie didn't forget Tang Guo's words. He wanted to beat this woman up. He walked up to Yang Yan, lifted her collar with his bloody claws, and slapped her face a few times. After a while, Yang Yan's face was swollen. Her original beauty couldn't be seen at all. "Brother Yang." Yang Yan didn't understand why this zombie liked to hit her face. She hadn't cultivated for long. There was nothing else in the space except the spiritual spring, the land, and the cultivation technique. This zombie's strength was beyond what she could accept. She couldn't resist at all. Yang Yi got up from the ground and saw that Yang Yan's face was swollen. He was furious and rushed towards the zombie. The zombie threw Yang Yan away and started to beat Yang Yi. The fierceness in his eyes turned into excitement. He felt the king's joy and beat Yang Yi even more ruthlessly. So, zombies are actually very cute creatures. Tang Guo smiled, feeling wonderful. At this moment, she felt a gaze. She looked in the direction of the gaze and saw a man standing there. The man had deep facial features and was handsome. He gave off a cold feeling. But she could see that there was no malice in his eyes. She ate a melon seed and had no intention of getting up. She glanced at Yang Yi, who was still being beaten up, and asked, "Who are you?" The man walked towards her and sized her up. "Shi Cheng." "I don't know him." Tang Guo narrowed her eyes. Why was Shi Cheng here? "Host, Shi Cheng's soul is abnormal. As for why I can't detect it. But I can feel that he has no ill intentions towards you." Tang Guo raised her eyebrows and didn't care. She continued to watch Yang Yi and Yang Yan being beaten by zombies with interest. Shi Cheng stood beside her without saying a word. He was also watching the two of them being beaten up. "Do you want to come with me?" Shi Cheng asked after a long while. Tang Guo felt a little strange. She found it funny. "Why should I go with you?" Shi Cheng was silent. He thought for a while and said, "You need a place to survive. I can protect you so that you won't be bullied in the apocalypse." These words made Tang Guo even more amused. What did this person mean? Why? Shi Cheng didn't say anything. He couldn't possibly tell her that if she continued to get involved with Yang Yi might end up shooting her in the head. That's right, he was reborn. In his previous life, he occupied half of the country. He always had a regret in his heart that he didn't stop Yang Yi from killing Tang Guo at the last moment. If he had taken Tang Guo away from the beginning, such a tragedy wouldn't have happened in the end. He didn't know why he, who had always been cold-hearted, felt sad when he saw that woman die with a smile. Chapter 370. Seeing that the two of them were beaten half to death, Yang Yan finally couldn't take it anymore. She hadn't dared to expose her space, for fear of attracting covetous eyes. Now that Yang Yi couldn't hold on any longer, she planned to use the spiritual spring to water the zombies. She had tried it before, and the zombies would be injured. As soon as she thought about it, the zombie's eyes moved and he quickly jumped away. Yang Yan stared at the disappearing zombie in shock, feeling very depressed. She had never seen such a zombie before. It left after beating her up. How despicable. The zombie left because he had just heard Tang Guo say, "Come back." Without any hesitation, his figure flashed and returned to Tang Guo's side. Shi Cheng was still vigilant when he saw the zombie suddenly appear. The zombie also stared at him warily. Tang Guo waved her hand, and the zombie stood beside her obediently with a fawning expression. Shi Cheng was a bit surprised. Was she so powerful? Although he knew her identity, he was still shocked to see her use these abilities with his own eyes. He didn't understand why such a powerful woman would choose to self-destruct in the end. He didn't suspect Tang Guo's abnormality at all. If Tang Guo had also been reborn, she wouldn't have mobilized the zombies just to beat Yang Yi up. She might have killed Yang Yan directly. He thought that Tang Guo was so miserable because she couldn't figure it out. He didn't understand the feelings between men and women. It should be a more complicated thing. Tang Guo watched excitedly as Yang Yan helped Yang Yi up. "Brother Yang, Are you okay? I'm fine. That zombie is very strange. Yang Yi frowned deeply. His goal seems to be to come up and beat us up. The two of them didn't understand and left with each other's help. The zombies outside were dispersed by Tang Guo when it was over. She shared with the system in a good mood. I realized that building a zombie empire was a very wise decision. Thinking about how countless humans will survive under the protection of zombies in the future, I feel very emotional. System, as long as the host is happy. Tang Guo was already used to this system that was getting better and better at flattering her. Are you really not coming with me? Shi Cheng was unwilling to give up. He didn't want this woman to end up in a miserable state. In this life, he had been reborn. He had established the Sunset Base early on, and it was now very powerful. As for why he happened to be here, he also came for the food factory. He did not expect to meet Tang Guo here. No. Tang Guo shook her head. I still have things to do. To find Yang Yi. Shi Cheng looked at her as if she was being stubborn. Tang Guo felt that this man was especially interesting. You rushed up to me and said that you would protect me and want me to go with you. Have you fallen for my beauty and fallen in love with me? Shi Cheng froze for a moment and frowned. No, don't overthink it. You weren't captivated by my beauty. Shi Cheng was speechless. Since you're not captivated by my beauty, I won't go with you. Tang Guo stood up. You don't have any designs on me, and you don't even like me. Why should I go with you? Shi Cheng was speechless. Why didn't he realize in his previous life that she was an unreasonable woman? She was indeed very beautiful, even more beautiful than when he saw her in his previous life. He blamed this on Yang Yi. Yes, it was Yang Yi who made her look less beautiful. If you go with me, I can try to like you. Shi Cheng had been holding it in for a long time and said something against his will. Chapter 371. I'm the woman who's going to unify the zombie empire. Why should I go with you? This was what Tang Guo said to Shi Cheng. He was stunned. What did this woman say? She's going to unify the zombie empire. I'll have all kinds of men in the future. When the zombie empire is established, I'll hold a concubine selection contest. I'll have all kinds of men to choose from. Why should I wait for you to like me? After saying this, Tang Guo abandoned Shi Cheng and left. Boss. When Shi Cheng's subordinates found him, he was staring at the place where the woman had been sitting. She seemed a little different from what he remembered. Boss, it seems that the supplies here have been taken away. The subordinate saw that Shi Cheng's expression didn't look too good. Why don't we go somewhere else to take a look? Okay. Shi Cheng nodded and clenched his fists. Develop Sunset Base as soon as possible. Since that woman didn't want to go with him, he would develop his forces first. There was still time anyway. When Yang Yi handed her over, he would take her away. Thinking of this, Shi Cheng's lips curled up. It wasn't that he had to persuade her to come. If she was hurt by Yang Yi in the future, she wouldn't think of him anymore. Shi Cheng felt much better. He seemed to have found his goal since his rebirth. The subordinate didn't quite understand why his boss, who had a bad expression just now, suddenly became more enthusiastic about developing his forces. No matter what, this was a good thing. Tang Guo walked to base 7 with the level 4 zombie by her side. She planned to raise this zombie to level 5 before entering base 7. Level 5 zombies had the consciousness of a normal person, but they still couldn't look like a normal person. However, this zombie was still considered clean. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be obvious if it changed its clothes. Of course, it was impossible to bring it into the base. As for herself, it wouldn't be a problem for her to enter the base. Wu Chu was a level 7 zombie. When it was upgraded to level 7, it could regain its consciousness and look like a normal person. To create one Wu Chu, she had basically used up all the high-level crystal nuclei she had. She couldn't upgrade this zombie to level 7. Meng Zheng, after I enter the base, you can't follow me anymore. If you ask me, you'd better go find Wu Chu and work for him. Meng Zheng, the level 5 zombie, shook his head. He remembered the woman in front of him from the moment the other zombies regained their consciousness. Somehow, he subconsciously called her queen, But he didn't understand why. He was already a zombie, and in the future, he would only live for the king. He only had admiration and loyalty in his heart, and he would never dare to blaspheme her. Tangguo also found that all the zombies who had regained their consciousness were loyal to her. She had never taught them how to address her as king, but when they woke up, that was how they addressed her. Perhaps she understood why this body was a regenerative body. It was a natural zombie king that could command all zombies. This knowledge made her very happy. Then you wait outside the base and take in the obedient zombies. Leave the disobedient ones alone. She wasn't so kind-hearted as to help those people clean up the zombies and let them live a peaceful life. Without experiencing the cruelty of the apocalypse, how could they understand that the future zombie empire would be a pure land? Just like that, Tangguo left Meng Zheng outside Base 7. She went through layers of checks and entered Base 7. She filled in as a normal person and was assigned to the normal section. Chapter 372. The ordinary people in the common area were not given any food. If they wanted to get food, they had to work. The base provided them with a small house as accommodation, but this small house could only be used for free for half a month. After half a month, they had to pay the accommodation fee. The accommodation fee here was crystallic nuclei and food, of which the crystallic nuclei were the most precious. The news of a very beautiful woman in the common area spread throughout the base in less than 2 days. After Tangguo walked out, many people looked at her with pity. She raised the corner of her mouth. This was the post-apocalyptic world. Beautiful women without awakened abilities could only survive by relying on the strong. Otherwise, their end would be very miserable. As soon as she came out, she was stopped by a big man, who looked at her with lustful eyes. "Follow me. Little beauty, if you follow me, you can get a lot of food and won't be bullied by others." Perhaps because Tangguo was too beautiful, the big man spoke softly. Tangguo showed a timid look and said in a low voice, "No, I have a fiancé. I heard that my fiancé is here, so I came to find him." System, drama queen host is online. She kept clenching her hands. Seeing that many people were looking at her, her eyes flashed with fear. Her delicate and pitiful appearance really made the men around her feel itchy. Seeing that more and more people were paying attention, the big man came over and grabbed Tangguo's wrist. "Follow me back. I guarantee you won't have to worry about food and clothing." Robberies like this often happened in the base. The others whispered. There were also a few men who were interested in Tangguo. They were all considering whether they should make a move for such a woman. In the post-apocalyptic world, not to mention women, even beautiful men had no human rights. They couldn't control their own fate. In the face of a strong ability user, they could only choose to submit or die. This kind of phenomenon became more and more common with the development of the post-apocalyptic world. Later, when they found that there were fewer and fewer women, they raised women as a special biosphere. They became pets. Even if there were many strong ability users in the post-apocalyptic world who were women, there was no way to change this situation. Because those beautiful men who didn't have any special skills or awakened abilities were just bed warmers for the strong. In such a society without a system, there were also many women who would support several men. They were strong, so why should they change the status quo? That is, unless something happened that affected their interests. Facing a group of men who were eyeing her covetously, the weak little girl who was surrounded in the middle was so scared that her body trembled. This scene made the men want to take her in. At this moment, she heard a voice not far away. "What's going on over there? I heard that a very beautiful woman came, and those people took a fancy to her." Yang Yi's expression became much colder. He only said, "Yes." He did not intend to meddle in other people's business. Yang Yi. Just as he was about to turn and leave, a familiar voice came from behind him. Yang Yi froze. He would never forget this voice. He would never forget it. Who else could it be but his fiancée who had abandoned him in the villa? He suppressed the anger in his heart. With a cold smile on his face, he turned around and walked over. Many people in the base knew Yang Yi. When they saw him coming, they all made way for him. The little woman in the middle was exposed. When Yang Yi saw that familiar face, he sneered. So that beautiful woman was his good fiancée? Chapter 373. Yi, I finally found you. Tang Guo broke free from the man's hand. Seeing that she knew Yang Yi, the man did not dare to grab her again. Looking at the woman's back, his eyes flashed with regret. Yang Yi expressionlessly looked at the pitiful woman running towards him with tears in her eyes. Why didn't he realize that his fiancée was so good at acting? He loved her so much, but she actually left him in the villa and left by herself. The woman threw herself into his arms, but he did not give her any expression. His heart was indifferent. He had long forgotten his feelings for her, leaving only hatred. Yi, are you okay? Hearing the woman's concerned words, Yang Yi sneered and pushed her away. His voice was strange. Why, you thought I was dead? You didn't expect to see me here, did you? Was she disappointed, scared, or glad? Where did you go? I've been looking for you for a long time. That day, I left the villa to get the medicine for you. When I came back, you were gone. The woman's eyes were full of tears and her face was pale. You thought I was dead. Yang Yi's mouth curved into a cold smile. She really knew how to act. Get the medicine. She could even think of such a clumsy excuse. At that time, zombies surrounded the villa. Did she dare to go out to get the medicine? Even a mouse could scare this woman. How could she have the courage to rush out of the villa to get the medicine? Yi, what's wrong with you? I really want you to be alive. Because of this, I insisted on living and found this place. On the way here, I heard that there was a person called Yang Yi here. He is a very powerful ability user, so I came here. Yang Yi glanced at her and sneered. If you heard that there was a person called Yang Yi here, who did not awaken his ability and was always bullied, would you still come here? The woman was stunned for a moment and quickly said, of course I would come. No matter how sincere her expression was, Yang Yi would not believe it. He glanced at the surrounding men who were eyeing him covetously and narrowed his eyes. He wanted to leave her here directly. But thinking of how good this woman was at acting, as long as she was willing to put down her status to coax men, she could still live a good life in the apocalypse. If she threw him away, how could she still live a good life? Come with me. Yang Yi turned around coldly. He no longer had the gentleness from before. The woman seemed to have sensed something. Her eyes flashed with panic. I can already imagine his ending. Tang Guo looked uneasy and pitiful. She followed behind Yang Yi with small steps while discussing with the system. This is a wretch. I'll try to explain it a few more times. Host, I don't think that's necessary. He won't believe me. I think it's necessary to leave a deep impression on him. I want him to remember how I explained it to him today for the rest of his life. When the truth is revealed, he will suffer even more. The system shuddered. The host was indeed the host, a ruthless person. Yang Yi brought Tang Guo to his villa, which was filled with members of the Sunshine Squad. When they saw Yang Yi return with a beautiful woman, their eyes were filled with ridicule. However, one man showed malice towards Tang Guo and stared at her for a long time. Boss, why are you so kind? Where did you find this thing? Shao Qing was the man who especially hated Tang Guo. Boss, don't tell me you brought her back because you miss her. Then what about Nyan Nyan? She likes you a lot. Chapter 374. Hearing this, Tang Guo raised her head and stared at Shao Qing professionally. Her face was full of surprise and panic. She only glanced at Shao Qing before looking at Yang Yi, as if she wanted him to confirm something. Yang Yi glanced at her lightly. We used to know each other. My ex-fiancé. Seeming to think of something, Yang Yi added. He didn't bring Tang Guo back to let her enjoy life. The look in Shao Qing and the other members' eyes suddenly changed. The other members who didn't dislike Tang Guo also showed displeasure. They all knew that when Boss awakened his special ability, he was abandoned by his fiancée. If Yang Nyan hadn't passed by, Boss might have died. This woman was really shameless. She still had the nerve to come here. Shao Qing, arrange a place for her to live. She was my ex-fiancée. I can't let her starve to death here. Otherwise, I'll be laughed at. Yang Yi's attitude made Shao Qing understand. Don't worry, boss. I won't let her starve to death. By the way, since you want to survive here without awakening an ability, Yang Yi looked at Tang Guo, the corners of his mouth slightly curved. The apocalypse doesn't raise idle people. Xiaoqing will arrange for you to do something within your power. Are ye? Tang Guo looked helpless and scolded in her heart. What do you mean by ex-fiancé? Yang Yi really didn't understand why this woman was so good at acting. She was still acting at this time. He didn't have the patience. He thought of another face in his mind and his expression softened. However, when he saw Tang Guo's beautiful face, he became cold again. He said gloomily, I'm already taking you in for the sake of our past relationship. Don't be ungrateful. Logically speaking, it was human nature for you to abandon me. After all, everyone is afraid. The funny thing was that he loved her so much and wanted to give her peace in the apocalypse. However, he was abandoned in the blink of an eye. It was this woman who made him understand the apocalypse and understood the true good and evil. They were both women. Why was she so different from Yang Nian? One had abandoned him, while the other had fearlessly brought him along. Ah Yi, you misunderstood. You had a high fever at that time. I really went to the pharmacy to get medicine. In order to get medicine, She was bitten by a zombie. People nowadays hated zombies. If she was exposed, she would definitely be chased away. Yang Yi chuckled. That's enough, Tang Guo. Our relationship ends here. If you want to live here, follow Xiaoqing's arrangement. Here, at least your face won't attract countless men to fight over you. Of course, if you want to live a carefree life, I won't stop you. There are many powerful ability users out there. With your looks, they won't reject you. Tang Guo took a step back and looked like she was about to collapse. She didn't understand how Yang Yi had become like this. Yang Yi went upstairs. He obviously didn't want to talk to her anymore. Tang Guo also heaved a sigh of relief. Acting as a love-struck weakling was a little boring. She still had to act for a while to leave an impression on Yang Yi. In the future, it would be even more unforgettable. When you hurt someone, it was never the physical body. It was stabbing a knife into the heart. The deeper you stabbed, the more painful it was. The highest level was to be in so much pain that you wished you were dead. You wanted to tear yourself apart piece by piece. This is where you live. Xiaoqing pointed to a small compartment in the corner of the stairs. It was originally used to store some goods, but this compartment was so small that it couldn't even fit a bed. Chapter 375. All the rooms in the villa are occupied. All the members are mutants. Although you're a woman, this is the apocalypse. Only capable people can live in spacious rooms. Xiaoqing turned around and threw 2 blankets into the cubicle. It had been a long time since anything was placed in the cubicle. When he threw the blankets in, the dust hit Tang Guo's face, causing her to choke and quickly retreat. Xiaoqing looked at her disheveled appearance and whistled as he left. After a while, Xiaoqing carried 2 buckets and placed them in front of her. There were many dirty clothes inside. Washing clothes is your job. That's the kitchen. I'll leave the cooking to you. Xiaoqing looked up and sized up the entire villa. The corners of his mouth curled up. I'll leave the cleaning of the villa to you. These are all your responsibilities. This is too much. Is it? Xiaoqing's face darkened. If you don't want to do it, you can follow us to kill zombies. Tang Guo fell silent and said softly, then I'll try it for 2 days. Xiaoqing already knew that she would agree. He snorted and went back to his room happily. Dear host, do you really want to do it? This kind of rough work is not suitable for your identity. Tang Guo looked up, walked into the cubicle, and closed the door. After transmigrating through so many worlds, even if I was a female supporting character with a tragic ending, I really don't need to do laundry, cleaning, and cooking. Tang Guo looked at the small cubicle and laughed. I've never lived in such a small room before. Dear host, you've been wronged. Why don't you go to Xiaoqing's place? He's quite a straightforward person. I don't think he has any ill intentions. Tongzi, when did you become so lazy? I just feel sorry for dear host. Even if it's just an act, you don't need to work so hard. Okay, I know you care about me, but I still have to continue this act. The cubicle was quickly cleaned up. Tangwa walked out and carried 2 buckets of clothes to the balcony. Sure enough, she saw a washing machine there. There was a washing machine, but she had to wash it herself. She threw the clothes into the washing machine, pressed the switch, turned on the water, stirred, and the washing began. She glanced at the entire villa and narrowed her eyes. Cleaning, right? She wet the mop but didn't wring it dry. It was wet all over the floor. The floor of the villa was originally made of wooden planks. Because there was too much water, it reflected light and looked like it was flooded. The system was dumbfounded. It knew that the host wouldn't work honestly, but it didn't expect her to do this. Host, you might get beaten up later. If I really knew how to cook, then my character would be ruined. The original owner's character was a rich young lady who didn't know how to cook, wash clothes, or clean. System, is that so? Host, when have you ever cared about your persona? Didn't they all break down quite badly? As they continued to act, they broke down. Xiaoqing slept for half an hour and prepared to come down to see how the woman was doing. Who knew that just as she stepped on the stairs, she slipped and her whole body rolled down the stairs. Thump, 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 thump. She was so energetic. Tangwa was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She saw Xiaoqing fall in front of her with her own eyes and wished her a happy new year. Xiaoqing exclaimed. He felt that someone was looking at him. He looked up and saw a pale face. He quickly turned over. Only then did he realize that the floor was wet. He looked at the wet mop in the woman's hand and was furious. What are you doing? Mopping the floor, the woman said weakly. Chapter 376. Xiaoqing was really depressed. He never knew that someone would mop the floor without wringing the mop dry. He suspected that it was a mistake to let this woman clean. Did I do something wrong? I'm sorry. Xiaoqing was speechless. That's enough. Xiaoqing frowned. She was really a rich missy who didn't know anything. He took the mop, wrung it dry again and continued to mop the floor. Tangwa watched him mop. After Xiaoqing was done, he asked, "Do you know how to do it now? Do it like this in the future." As a result, he saw Tangwa's confused face. What? Xiaoqing rubbed his temples and threw the mop aside. It's almost time for dinner. They'll be back soon. Go and cook. Tangwa went to the kitchen. There were rice, noodles, and some meat. There were no vegetables. There were many cans of different kinds at the side. The Sunshine Team's life in the base was considered pretty good. Yang Yi went downstairs and saw a depressed Xiaoqing. He asked, "What's wrong?" "Boss, you're still asking what's wrong. You brought back a woman who doesn't know anything." Xiaoqing finally found someone to complain to. How did she survive until now? She didn't even wring the mop dry and made water all over the floor. Yang Yi was stunned. He said instinctively, "She doesn't know how to do it." He wanted to ask why a rich missy like her would know these things. Suddenly, he remembered why he brought her back. Then Xiaoqing should teach her more. Otherwise, she won't even know the basic life skills. Where did she go? Yang Yi didn't see Tangwa and asked. Xiaoqing pointed to the kitchen. I asked her to cook. Cook? Yang Yi was stunned. He had a bad feeling and hurried to the kitchen. Seeing the scene in front of him, he stood there. Xiaoqing followed him and saw the scene in the kitchen. He almost cursed out loud. What are you doing? Tangwa stirred the rice and noodles with a spatula. She looked very innocent. Cooking. The veins on Xiaoqing's forehead were about to pop out. Cooking? How the hell was this cooking? Who told her that cooking involved putting rice and flour together? Cooking? What's over there? Xiaoqing looked at the square-shaped pieces of meat, and the premonition in his heart grew worse. Tangwa said excitedly, I see that there is a lot of beef. Let's make a steak. Steak? He still had red wine. Xiaoqing looked at Yang Yi with a hopeless expression. Boss, this is the person you brought back. She wanted to make steak. He wondered when she would ask them for red wine. That piece of beef was enough to last them for 2 days. If it weren't for Yang Yi, Xiao Qing would have driven Tang Guo out on the spot. The system side at the side, the host has portrayed the essence of a young lady who doesn't know anything. It's the kind that makes people hate her, and it's also very annoying. While stirring the pot, Tang Guo discussed with the system, "Actually, this rice paste is quite delicious. They'll understand in a while. My cooking skills are pretty good." Gradually, a fragrance wafted out of the pot. Xiao Qing was stunned. Was this possible? Yang Yi's eyes flashed as he stared at the white paste in the pot. Although the cooking method was unimaginable, it smelled good. The two of them wanted to stop her, but they suddenly had the idea of waiting. When the rice paste was out of the pot, Tang Guo scooped a bowl for Yang Yi and said with anticipation, "Ah Yi, do you want to try it first?" Chapter 377. Xiao Qing stretched his neck and looked into the pot. He didn't wait for Tang Guo's order and scooped a bowl himself. He didn't care that it was too hot and gulped it down. There was a layer of white paste around his mouth, but his face was strangely satisfied. "It's quite delicious." Yang Yi saw that Xiao Qing was enjoying the soup and took a sip. He was stunned by the taste. It was indeed delicious. Xiao Qing's gaze towards Tang Guo softened a lot, although he still didn't like her. "Ah Yi, is it good?" Looking at the woman's expectant eyes, Yang Yi's face became cold. "Since you can cook, you'll be responsible for cooking for the team from now on." Seeing the woman's disappointment, Yang Yi took the bowl and left. Food was precious in the apocalypse. No matter how much he disliked this woman, he wouldn't waste food. "I really didn't leave Yi. I went to find medicine for him. He had a high fever and I didn't know what to do," Tang Guo explained in a low voice. "I don't know why he didn't believe me. Maybe he misunderstood when he woke up and found that I was gone. By the way, there was a woman who helped me look after Yi. She told me to go to the pharmacy. That's why I dared to let Yi stay in the villa and go to the pharmacy alone. I didn't expect that he was gone when I came back. If we can find that woman, we can explain it clearly." Xiao Qing looked at the depressed Tang Guo and his heart softened. But he quickly put away his sympathy. Maybe this woman was just acting and wanted to seek the boss's protection. The boss already had Nyan Nyan. This woman couldn't destroy the relationship between the boss and Nyan Nyan. "I think the boss doesn't like you anymore. You'd better not bother him. Besides, the boss already has someone he likes. She's a very powerful psychic." Xiao Qing stared at Tang Guo and said, "You're just an ordinary person. You're not qualified to stand beside the boss. And in that situation, you leaving the villa was tantamount to abandoning the boss." He didn't believe that such a timid woman would have the courage to go out and find medicine. Xiao Qing glanced at the cut beef and said, "You'd better continue to make steak. It should taste good. I thought the host would destroy all the food." The system was a little confused. Tang Guo smiled. "Mopping the floor without wringing the mop dry. I just wanted to teach Xiao Qing a lesson. His attitude towards me was very unfriendly. I was just a little angry, that's all. I don't really want to mop the floor. A rich young lady like me doesn't need to know everything. I just need to be good at one thing. In the long run, many people will stand on my side." How was she going to achieve her goal if she incurred the disgust of the team? She wanted everyone except Yang Yi and Yang Nian to like her and have a good impression of her. They felt that she was pitiful, but because she had abandoned Yang Yi before, they couldn't speak up for her. It was impossible for her to go out and kill zombies. She didn't kill her own kind. System, hey, is that so? The host was getting more and more insincere. Previously, she even told Meng Zheng to kill zombies casually. Tang Guo skillfully fried the steak and smiled, "I also want to live here. The food in the apocalypse is too disgusting, so I have to cook it myself." System, that should be the main point. There were originally 7 people in the Sunshine Squad, but now there were 8 including her. There were 4 people in the villa, so she only fried 4 pieces. Chapter 378. Tang Guo ate her fill in the kitchen before cooking for Yang Yi, Xiao Qing, and Qin Jiaran. The other person was a woman called Qin Jiaran. Xiao Qing had already smelled the aroma and was waiting at the door. This woman was annoying, but the food she made was delicious. Xiaoqing thought and looked at Tang Guo eagerly. Seeing her put 3 pieces of steak on the plate, he couldn't wait to take them. You take them to Jiaren, and I'll take them to boss. Seeing Tang Guo's disappointed eyes, Xiaoqing was a little embarrassed, as if he had made a mistake. He took the steak and went to her. Tang Guo knocked on the door of Qin Jiaren's room. The door was opened, and a cold beauty with a clean appearance walked out. She glanced at Tang Guo and saw the rice paste and steak in Tang Guo's hands. For me? Yes. Qin Jiaren took it and said coldly, thank you. When Tang Guo came to the villa, Qin Jiaren was the only one who didn't show any expression. After she turned and walked away, Qin Jiaren closed the door. She was a cold-faced but polite person. With nothing to do, Tang Guo sat on the sofa in the living room in a daze. Xiaoqing wanted to ask her to dry the clothes, but he remembered that she was a good cook and that he had stopped her from bringing food to Yang Yi. He felt a little uncomfortable, so he turned and dried the clothes. Xiaoqing went to the living room and chose a seat far away. He touched his nose and said, "You'll be in charge of cooking from now on." He didn't expect this rich young lady to be so good at cooking. It was just that the way she cooked was a little unacceptable. After swallowing the rice paste, he only felt warm and comfortable in his stomach. Thinking that he could eat such food in the future, he must exchange more rice and flour. "Don't you need to mop the floor?" Xiaoqing laughed in his heart. He was afraid that she would flood the villa, so he said, "No." "Don't you need to wash the clothes?" Xiaoqing laughed. She threw all the clothes into the washing machine. Even if it was the end of the world, she still had to divide them. "No." "Well, then I'll cook. I really don't know anything else, but I do have some talent in cooking." Tang Guo pursed her lips. "I don't eat much either, so I won't go out. I won't be a burden to you." Hearing this, Xiaoqing felt a little sour in his heart. It was indeed not easy for such a beautiful girl to live in the apocalypse. Perhaps, she had abandoned boss because she was afraid. One after another, the other team members, except for Yang Nian, returned. Everyone who ate Tang Guo's food was very surprised. The young lady who had never done any household chores actually cooked so well. Everyone looked at each other and reached a consensus. Actually, it was good to keep her alive. At this time, it was already good to have food. It was really not easy to make such delicious food with such little food. Just based on her craftsmanship, if others knew about it, they would probably fight for it. They all tacitly agreed that Tang Guo was only responsible for cooking 2 meals and did not need to care about anything else. Yang Nian finally returned. When she entered, she saw Tang Guo talking and laughing with everyone. She was stunned. Seeing Tang Guo look back at her, a chill rose from the soles of her feet. How was she still alive? This was Yang Nian's first thought. Shouldn't she be dead? This was Yang Nian's second thought. What should she do now? Yang Nian's heart was in a mess. At this time, Yang Yi came down the stairs. She clenched her fists and walked towards Yang Yi. Chapter 379. Yang Yi smiled at her and she heaved a sigh of relief. She immediately thought of a way to pretend that she didn't know him. "Ah Yi, this is?" Yang Nian looked at Tang Guo in confusion and asked, "Is someone from our team here again?" At the same time, Tang Guo also came to Yang Nian and looked at her in surprise. She grabbed Yang Nian's arm and said, "So you're here." Her eyes were filled with anticipation. "Please help me explain to Yi that I only went to get the medicine for him and didn't abandon him. You were there too, right?" Yang Nian's heart sank and her face was tense. She tried hard to control her expression and looked at Tang Guo in confusion. Looking at Tang Guo's expectant face, Yang Nian continued to ask, "Who are you? I don't know you. And what do you want me to explain? You were at the villa back then. You were the one who told me that the pharmacy wasn't far from the villa. You said that you would help me look after Yi while I went to get the medicine. Have you forgotten all this?" Yang Nian frowned. "Miss, are you sure you saw me? I'm sure I didn't see you." Yang Nian was very glad that she hadn't told Tang Guo her name. "Since you know me, please tell me my name, and who are you questioning me and what do you want me to explain to Yi?" Tang Guo couldn't answer the questions at all. She had only seen this woman once and didn't know her name. She stood there speechlessly and just repeated that Yang Nian had indeed helped her look after a Yi before she went to get the medicine. However, no one believed her words. The members of the Sunshine team all thought that she was possessed. Please, can you help me explain? Yi doesn't believe me. The woman put on a pitiful look with her beautiful face, and it was easy to soften one's heart. Yi, can you believe me this once? Can you explain it to me? The woman suddenly remembered that she had exchanged jade pendants with Yang Nian. By the way, you even exchanged medicine with me for a jade pendant. That jade pendant is my family heirloom. If it wasn't to save Yi, I would never have given it to you. I remember that Yang Nian did have a jade pendant. Qin Jiaran suddenly said, Yang Nian, take out the jade pendant and let her see who's innocent. As a team, we still need to clarify who's innocent. Yang Nian felt a little resentful. This Qin Jiaran had never been on good terms with her. This was a very smart woman. Today, if she didn't take out the jade pendant to prove it, it wouldn't do. Everyone stared at Yang Nian. It wasn't that they doubted their own members, but that this matter wasn't ordinary. It concerned a particularly important person in their team. Under everyone's expectant gazes, Yang Nian took out the jade pendant from her neck and handed it to Tang Guo. Look, is this your jade pendant? Everyone looked at the jade pendant and turned to look at Tang Guo. Tang Guo stared at the jade pendant in a daze for a moment. No. Looking at her expression, everyone understood what was going on. I said I don't know you. Yang Nian frowned. Yi, who is she? She grabbed Yang Yi's arm. I heard that a very beautiful woman came a few days ago. Yi, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to her. I'm a Yi's fiancé. Tang Guo reacted. She felt a sense of crisis and said nervously. Yang Nian turned to Yang Yi, waiting for his answer. Chapter 380. Facing the two women's gazes, Yang Yi didn't hesitate at all. He held Yang Nian's hand and looked at the woman's incredulous gaze. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. My girlfriend is Yang Nian, and my future wife is also Yang Nian. Tang Guo took 2 steps back and was in a daze. She was complaining to the system in her heart. He finally said it. But she pretended to be hurt. Yi is clearly enough. If you still want to stay here, please be aware of your identity, Miss Tang. Yi, I really didn't abandon you. I don't know why she said that, Tang Guo explained anxiously. She suddenly thought of something and stared at Yang Nian with bright eyes. Did you lie to them because you like Yi? Yang Yi sneered and shouted, Tang Guo, Yi. Yang Yi didn't feel anything when he was stared at by this woman. Thinking that the little hand he was holding was warmer, he placed Yang Nian's hand over his heart. His expression was warm as he said softly, I'll say it again. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. My girlfriend now is Yang Nian, understand? If you dare to do anything to Nian Nian and disturb her, then get out of the villa. Looking at the stunned woman, Yang Yi held Yang Nian's hand and went upstairs. He had no intention of softening his heart. Tang Guo stood there with her head lowered. At an angle that no one could see, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. This is the bad thing about inheriting feelings. You're so immersed in everything and feel sad. So pitiful. I can feel how her heart is slowly breaking. If the host feels sad, she can choose not to inherit feelings. Then it's meaningless. Only by inheriting all the feelings can you enjoy the pleasure of revenge. System, you're a pervert, a devil. When the host is in a bad mood, I can play videos for you. They're all the times your exes spoiled you. Tang Guo whispered, this is the apocalypse. They don't exist. By the way, who are they? System, I don't want to talk. She really hoped that there would be a warm man in the apocalypse who would spoil the host very much. This greedy host, once no one in the world could warm her heart, she would become more and more perverted, more and more indifferent, and more broken. Since boss doesn't like you anymore, and he's with Yang Nian now, I think we should forget about it. Xiao Qing saw the woman lowering her head and felt pity for her. It was not easy to survive in the apocalypse. You brought this upon yourself. Yang Nian clearly didn't know her, but she still wanted to push the blame onto Yang Nian. This made his good impression dissipate a lot. The other team members did the same. Without saying a word to Tang Guo, they turned around and returned to their rooms. Only Tang Guo and Qin Jiaran were left in the living room. Qin Jiaran walked up to her and patted her on the shoulder. Tang Guo raised her head and looked at the cold beauty in front of her. This is the end of the world. You should learn to love yourself. It doesn't matter if you abandoned Yang Yi or if you had other reasons. The most important thing is to survive. Feelings are a joke in this post-apocalyptic world. Only if you are strong enough can you have a foothold here. With that, Qin Jiaran didn't wait for Tang Guo's reply and turned to go upstairs. Only Tang Guo was left in the living room. She looked in the direction where Qin Jiaran disappeared with a slight smile and said softly, "I like this cold beauty, Qin Jiaran." She once said the same thing to the host. Unfortunately, the host didn't listen. Chapter 381. In the following days, Tang Guo would go to Yang Yi to explain to him when she was free. Her pitiful appearance really made her look like a weak little white flower. However, the more she acted like this, the colder Yang Yi was to her, which improved his relationship with Yang Nian. The plot was similar to the original development. Tang Guo, the tainted fiancé, was their relationship multiplier. She only needed a little more perseverance. Once she dug her own grave again, the relationship between the two of them would be unbreakable. This time, the team had to go to a distant place to collect supplies. Leaving Tang Guo alone in the villa, the team members were afraid of danger. In the original plot, the team had brought Tang Guo along because she had begged. This time, the team members had taken the initiative to bring her along. Because the food she cooked was really delicious. Even if she had a tainted past, she was now an ordinary person. What could she change? Their boss and Yang Nian's relationship was getting better and better. They weren't afraid that Tang Guo would do anything to ruin their relationship. In the original plot, they went out to collect supplies this time. They went to a warehouse far away where zombies gathered. There were many daily necessities and food stored inside. It was also this time that the original owner was completely disgusted by Yang Yi and hated her to death. After entering the warehouse, there was a conflict with the zombies. Suddenly, a particularly powerful zombie appeared and went for Yang Nian. The original owner's heart gradually collapsed because Yang Nian refused to admit that she had seen her and even took over Yang Yi. Seeing the zombie attack Yang Nian, the pleasure of revenge rose in her heart. She wanted Yang Nian to die here so that Yang Yi would look back at her. Thus, she did something stupid and stopped Yang Yi, who was going to help Yang Nian, causing Yang Nian to be kidnapped by that powerful zombie. Yang Yi pushed the original owner away and happened to push her into the zombie crowd. He turned around and chased after Yang Nian. The original owner was pushed into the zombie crowd, and the secret that the zombies didn't bite her was also discovered by the team members. Later, Yang Yi brought Yang Nian back and found out about this matter, which set the stage for pushing Tang Guo out in the future. After this, Yang Yi became more and more disgusted with Tang Guo, so he would not hesitate to let her replace Yang Nian and hand her over to the Sunset Base. The zombie that took Yang Nian away was a level 5 zombie. He had already awakened his own consciousness and was an alumnus who had once had a crush on Yang Nian. He didn't want to possess Yang Nian. He only wanted to be able to protect her silently. It could be said that the reason why the Sunshine Squad could become the Sunshine Base was because of this zombie. Tang Guo was a little curious about this zombie. She didn't know if the other party, who had awakened consciousness, would obey her or continue to be obsessed with Yang Nian. Just as he was thinking about it, the team's car had already arrived outside the warehouse. The densely packed zombies around the warehouse gave people goosebumps. In fact, these zombies were all under the command of the level 5 zombie. Host, the other party is observing you from the rooftop. With the cheating device that was the system, as long as he could scan the area, nothing could be hidden. Tang Guo's current body's strength could be said to be a cheat. Her eyesight and hearing were very good. She subconsciously glanced at the roof and saw a small black shadow squatting there. She inadvertently looked away, revealing a timid expression. Su Ao, who thought that he had been discovered, stared at the weak woman in the crowd with confusion in his eyes. For some reason, he felt that this woman gave him a lot of pressure. However, he didn't think it was because of this woman. Perhaps it was because of the man beside her. At this moment, he suddenly saw Yang Nian get out of the car. Surprise flashed across his eyes, and he forgot all his doubts and almost rushed down. Chapter 382. The members of the Sunshine Squad were indeed the most powerful squad in Base 7. Yang Yi had awakened metal and lightning powers. The zombies' heads exploded before they could even get close to him. Qin Jiaran, the cold beauty, was also very powerful. She had awakened the power of ice. She froze the zombies and Yang Yi struck them with 2 thunderbolts. The zombies were basically destroyed. Shao Qing had fire powers and was in charge of cleaning up the lone zombies. With 3 people, the squad was able to clear a path. The others were in charge of dealing with the zombies or humans that could sneak up on them at any time. Yang Nian stood beside Yang Yi. Her steps were light, and she wasn't afraid at all. On the other hand, Tang Guo looked cautious and scared. No one found it strange. After all, this was her first time out. Yang Nian already felt that Tang Guo wasn't a threat. No one would believe that Tang Guo was innocent now. Besides, Yang Yi was with her. But Tang Guo was still alive. She was still a hidden danger. I can feel her murderous intent. What should the host do? Of course I have to cooperate with her. I should hate her very much now. I can't wait for her to die. The system swallowed. No, it was just a series of programs. It didn't have any saliva. Sure enough, Yang Nian unconsciously moved closer to Tang Guo. On the other side of her, there were zombies that wanted to attack. Tang Guo felt a strong force pushing her. Then a hand grabbed her wrist. Then her hand turned into a push and landed on Yang Nian's arm. Yang Nian fell toward the zombies in disbelief. She even shouted, "Tang Guo, are you crazy?" Tang Guo stood there like a fool. In fact, she was controlling the zombies behind Yang Nian to give them a special order. Beat her. Hit her face. Beat her hard. Nian Nian. Yang Yi's face turned cold. He instinctively ran toward Yang Nian. The zombies that had been observing from the roof also rushed down and ran toward the zombies. Su Ao didn't understand why the zombies here didn't listen to his orders. The zombies grabbed Yang Nian and ran. As they ran, they waved at Yang Nian's face. The sound of slapping rang out, and Yang Yi's veins popped out. He could not help but turn around and glare fiercely at Tang Guo, leaving a look that said, "I'll deal with you later." The scene was very strange. More and more zombies surrounded Yang Nian. Yang Yi and Su Ao had to clear the zombies before they could continue. Yang Nian didn't expect that she was just trying to trick them. She didn't expect these zombies to like her so much. Before she could react, she was hugged by the zombies, followed by a series of slaps on her face, which made her dizzy. There were too many zombies. Countless hands grabbed every part of her body, pinching and beating. She had never been humiliated like this in her entire life. She regretted it very much. Why did she use such a stupid trick? Why did you push Nian Nian? Shao Qing's expression was ugly. She was about to be bitten to death by zombies, and you got what you wanted. I didn't push her. There was no longer fear in Tang Guo's eyes. Instead, she smiled coldly. But that's not important. No matter who pushed her, she has been taken away by zombies. She may be dead. Chapter 383. Wouldn't it be great if she died? Tang Guo's lips curled into a faint smile. Her smile was so cold that Shao Qing couldn't help but feel surprised. Was this still the same timid and pure young miss from before? No, she had never been an innocent person. Yang Nian didn't do anything to let you down. Why are you so vicious? Shao Qing was shaking with anger. The woman in front of him was unmoved. She murmured, "She really didn't do anything to let me down. She's the only one who knows. If she can survive today, it means that the heavens are looking out for her. I can fight anyone, but the heavens are against me. I'm afraid I really can't win." Her eyes dimmed. My persistence these days might really be a joke. I gave up my pride as a young lady and cooked for the team so that Yi could believe in my determination. I thought that I would get results if I persisted, but he never believed me. Instead, he hated me more and more. Yi has been chasing after me since high school. He dotes on me all the time, does everything for me, loves me, and takes care of me. She lowered her eyes. When he had a high fever, I never thought of abandoning him and leaving. I even thought, if he wakes up as a zombie, in this post-apocalyptic world, what's the point of me living alone? Why not let him bite me, and we become zombies together, then we can be a zombie couple. She appeared. She used medicine to exchange for my jade pendant and reminded me that there was a pharmacy not far from the villa. Yi loves me, and I love Yi. Even though I'm timid, as long as I can save Yi, what is this life? The moment I rushed out of the villa, my legs were shaking. I was holding a kitchen knife in my hand. I had never cut meat before, but I actually used a kitchen knife to kill who knows how many zombies along the way. My body was covered in disgusting bodily fluids and brain matter. I was so obsessed with cleanliness and beauty, so I didn't care about that at all. Instead, I was happy that I could successfully reach the pharmacy. Yes, after coming to the pharmacy, I can finally get the medicine and go back to save my lover. But she was still bitten by a zombie and became a very special zombie. She rushed all the way to base 7, only to see her lover with another woman. No matter how she explained, her lover didn't believe her. He thought that she was acting, that she had abandoned him, that she was a flowery talker, and in the end, that she was vicious. She put down her pride and did something she had never done before. With her looks, even in the apocalypse, there were countless strong people willing to take care of her. Not to mention, she was originally a zombie, and her strength was not low. No matter if she was in a human base or working with zombies, she could survive in this world. There was no need for her to do those things. She thought that as long as she explained it clearly, she would be able to get an answer after some time. However, she was wrong. No matter what, you shouldn't have pushed Yang Nian. Xiao Qing said stubbornly. As for Tang Guo's words, he did not believe them. I misjudged you. I thought you were just a little spoiled. Back then, you abandoned Boss because you were too scared. Now, I understand that you were born with a vicious heart. Boss didn't choose you. That's the right decision. Tang Guo didn't say anything. She just stood there in a daze, looking at the man running in the distance. Come with me. At some point, a truck drove over beside the team. A cold and handsome man jumped out. He came to Tang Guo, and the coldness on his face lessened. Chapter 384. They don't welcome you, don't want to keep you, don't like you, and don't believe you. But I welcome them, I keep them, I like them, I believe them. The man's cold face had some warmth. He looked at her with sincerity in his eyes. Tang Guo raised her eyes slightly. Are we familiar with each other? Not now, but we'll get to know each other in the future. I don't think so. She lowered her head and smiled. I don't need you to believe me, nor do I need your protection. You should understand. Shi Cheng naturally understood that she was powerful. He also knew that Yang Nian had been taken away by those zombies because of her. She had controlled the zombies. If she was really a vicious woman, the zombies would have bitten Yang Nian to death instead of teasing her. Sometimes, he really hoped that she was a vicious woman, so that she wouldn't end up so miserable. If Tang Guo knew what Shi Cheng was thinking, she would laugh at him. She was a vicious woman, more vicious than anyone could imagine. A person's viciousness didn't mean that they were murderous. They're coming back soon. Do you want to come with me? Shi Cheng asked in a soft voice. Shi Cheng's subordinates were stunned. They had never seen such a gentle side of their boss before. Tang Guo shook her head gently and stroked her messy hair. Thank you, but no. What a stubborn woman. Shi Cheng really wanted to scold her, but seeing her pale face, he couldn't bear to. Come with me, okay? His tone was actually pleading. He couldn't wait until then. He wanted to take her away from here as soon as possible so that she wouldn't be hurt. He wanted to give her the best protection. He hadn't seen her these days, but he had been paying attention to news about her every day. Tang Guo felt Shecheng's anxiety and couldn't help asking, "Why should I go with you? Are you smitten by my beauty?" Whether it was Shecheng's subordinates or the members of the Sunshine Squad, they all had strange expressions. It turned out that this woman was a narcissist. "Yes," Shecheng said. "Then are you willing to go with me?" Tang Guo smiled, the corners of her eyes slightly raised, with a different kind of elegance. "There are many people who have fallen for my beauty. Do I have to go with them just because they want me to?" "Wake up," Shecheng said. "This woman is extraordinarily difficult to deal with. You still haven't given up on Yang Yi?" Tang Guo was silent. "It doesn't matter if I give up or not. It doesn't matter where I go." She was a little unhappy and complained to the system, "If it weren't for the last step, I would have really wanted to leave with him. I miss the days when I was always praised for my looks and loved by others. I want to wear a skirt. I don't want to wear ugly sportswear." "Host, are you interested in him?" "Yeah, looks are my cup of tea. His personality is also quite good. There's something about him that especially attracts me." Tang Guo chuckled in her heart. "It's as if there's someone in every world who attracts me and makes me greedy for their love. How fascinating. You must be a demon." The system was silent for a moment, then asked, "Host, have you ever wondered why you're attracted to these people? And why are they the same?" For the sake of its host, it still felt that it needed to remind her. "Is it important?" Tang Guo didn't care. "No matter what the special reason is, he has attracted my attention. That's a success." Chapter 385. For those who treat me with sincerity, I will give them the same generous rewards. I have always been a very reasonable and fair person. I can distinguish right from wrong, and I am the kind of person who is especially upright. System, is that so? She was very reasonable and fair. Of course, she knew right from wrong. But right from wrong? Host, do you have any morals? Yang Yi walked back with a disheveled Yang Nian in his arms. He stared at Tang Guo and sneered when he saw a strange man standing in front of her. "Miss Tang, you're really capable." Tang Guo raised her eyes and looked at him indifferently. "Did Nian Nian do anything to you? I warned you long ago that you'd better not cause trouble for Nian Nian. You really don't give up and want to kill Nian Nian. If anything happens to Nian Nian, I won't let you off." Tang Guo's voice was faint. "Ah Yi, can you listen to my explanation?" "Explanation?" Yang Yi laughed. He was surprised that the other party could still speak like this. Everyone saw it. Nian Nian shouted subconsciously in the end. "All of this shows that you pushed Nian Nian. You've always disliked Nian Nian and thought that she stole me. Miss Tang, don't you understand that you were the one who gave up on our relationship? I didn't want to say such harsh words in the past, but now I have to. If I, Yang Yi, hadn't awakened my special ability and was an ordinary person, you probably wouldn't have looked back at me. You're full of clinginess and the way you're so eager to get close to me makes me sick." The woman's face was very pale, and her slender body seemed like it could be blown away by the wind at any time. She looked at Yang Yi with her clear eyes. "So Ah Yi thinks I'm such a person. No wonder it's useless no matter how I explain. Ah Yi doesn't like me pestering you. I won't pester you anymore. Ah Yi doesn't like me disturbing Miss Yang. I won't disturb her anymore. Ah Yi definitely doesn't want me to stay in the Sunshine Squad. I won't be a member of the Sunshine Squad from now on. I'm sorry for the trouble I caused Ah Yi." Yang Yi was furious. "Why are you saying it so emotionally? You're the one who did something wrong, and you're willing to let me go just because you're not a Sunshine Squad member? I'll say it again. I didn't abandon you or push Miss Yang. Even though I really want her to die in the mouth of zombies." Tang Guo looked at Yang Nian, who was in a sorry state. "But she seems to be favored by the heavens. She survived even like this. I admit defeat." Yang Yi glanced at Shecheng and sneered coldly. "Have you found a new backer and decided to give up on me? I don't know him." Tang Guo looked at Shecheng and said, "Thank you for your kindness. You can leave. I won't go with you." Shecheng sighed and said with a serious expression, "If you want to come to me, you're always welcome." Yang Nian also woke up. The experience just now had really frightened her. She had never been so close to a zombie and had even been touched by a zombie. She really didn't want to experience this kind of humiliation again. She buried her head in Yang Yi's arms and didn't say a word. Yang Yi's heart ached as he put her in the car. He turned to leave but was caught by her. Yi, where are you going? Nyan Nyan, I'm going to help you vent your anger. It doesn't make sense that she can stand there calmly after you suffered. Chapter 386. Yang Nyan's eyes flickered. Yi, don't go overboard. Maybe she just hasn't figured it out yet. Can she kill you just because she hasn't figured it out? Yang Yi pushed Yang Nyan away and walked towards Tang Guo. His aggressive manner frightened the members of the team. He grabbed Tang Guo and Qin Jiaran hurriedly said, "Boss, what are you doing?" "What am I doing?" "Let her experience what it's like to be surrounded by zombies. It doesn't make sense for her to just admit her mistake after what she did to Nyan Nyan." "Boss, she'll die like this." Shao Qing hurriedly stopped him. "We can't push her into the zombie crowd no matter what." Yang Yi sneered and still didn't change his mind. He glanced at the calm woman and said, "If Nyan Nyan had died in the zombie crowd just now, would you still say that?" Nyan Nyan was lucky to not be bitten by the zombies. If she was lucky enough to survive, she could continue to be in the Sunshine Squad. Qin Jiaran still said, "Boss, Miss Tang isn't that kind of person. I hope you can ask clearly, lest you do something you'll regret in the future." She didn't pay attention to what happened just now, but she had a feeling that Tang Guo wasn't that kind of person. This was her intuition. What she didn't say was that she couldn't see through this woman. Sometimes when she went downstairs, she would occasionally see that woman sitting on the sofa with the corners of her mouth curved as if she was smiling. At that time, Tang Guo was very different from what everyone thought. If she really wanted to harm Yang Nyan, why didn't she do something to the food? Why did she have to push her into the zombie crowd so blatantly? Wasn't it obvious that she wanted everyone to see her do bad things? She felt that Tang Guo wasn't that stupid. "I know what kind of person she is better than you. I know that Jiaran has always been prejudiced against Nyan Nyan, but this time, everyone saw that she pushed Nyan Nyan herself. He wouldn't let her go." Yang Yi grabbed Tang Guo's wrist and took her to the zombie crowd. When they were not far from the zombies, Yang Yi pushed her without hesitation. Her whole body fell into the zombie crowd's range. She only looked back at Yang Yi. Her eyes were filled with despair. Her originally bright eyes had completely lost their luster and became grey. Those who saw that gaze felt their hearts stagnate, and an unconcealable bitterness surged from the bottom of their hearts. Yang Yi paused for a moment before turning his head. She deserved it. She shouldn't have pushed Nyan Nyan. She was a vicious woman. Shao Qing closed his eyes. He still couldn't bear it. Qin Jiaran's cold eyes flashed as she stared at the zombie crowd. She couldn't help praying, hoping that woman could survive. Half an hour later, they couldn't see the scene inside. They only knew that zombies were surrounding and celebrating. Shao Qing felt a little uncomfortable. Nyan Nyan was being eaten by the zombies. For the first time, Qin Jiaran felt a little sad. She wouldn't be able to eat the rice paste she made in the future. Thinking of that woman's occasional warm smile, she felt that it was a pity. In the car, Yang Nyan also heard the noise outside. Knowing that Tang Guo had been pushed into the zombie crowd, she breathed a sigh of relief. The things she was afraid of and the secrets she had hidden would never be exposed again. "Boss, it's been half an hour." Shao Qing couldn't help reminding him. "Let's go take a look and kill these zombies." Shao Qing didn't know if her body was still there. Yang Yi was stunned. Half an hour had passed. He quickly looked in the direction of the zombie crowd. There were no screams or cries. He clenched his fists. She asked for it. "Let's go take a look." Chapter 387. The members of the Sunshine Squad killed the zombies crazily. Their speed was much faster than before. They didn't know why they were so anxious. In fact, many people, including Shao Qing, regretted not stopping them just now. If they allow their boss to do this, what's the difference between them and Tang Guo's previous behavior? In fact, except for that point just now, she was really good to ordinary people. When cooking, she would carefully ask them about their tastes. Occasionally, when they didn't come back, she would let them eat. Except for annoying the boss, she never caused any trouble for them. On the contrary, because of her existence, their lives were much better. They didn't have to cook every day. They just ate some dry food and some canned food. Every day, they could eat hot food and occasionally enjoy the tea and snacks she made. Other than being inferior in other areas, she was really unparalleled when it came to cooking. Now that she thought about it carefully, she had never let down anyone in their team except for Yang Nian and Yang Yi. They could only watch helplessly as she died. Their hearts were filled with guilt and sadness. The more Xiaoqing thought about it, the more guilty she felt. In fact, she wasn't that bad. Maybe she just didn't understand why she had to die. Host, there are a few people outside secretly wiping tears. They killed zombies so hard that they almost died in one hit. Host, they seem to be regretting it. It's as I expected. I didn't do anything to let them down. On the contrary, I took good care of them. Tang Guo squatted on the ground, holding her chin in a daze. I don't have to work so hard anymore. I'll do whatever I want. Cooking depends on my mood. I want to act as a woman whose heart is already dead. The system was speechless. Recently, the host had fallen in love with acting. Didn't she act enough in the last world? In the future, I'll only make food for people who are pleasing to the eye. Yang Yi and Yang Nian, forget about them. Go eat their dry food. System, as long as you're happy. When the Sunshine Squad used all their strength to kill their way in, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. After being stunned for a while, they couldn't help but feel relieved. She was actually still alive and well. They looked at the zombies around her. It was as if they didn't see her. They didn't attack her at all. This was very surprising. Could it be that she had awakened an ability? Tang Guo. Xiaoqing quickly rushed over and squatted beside her to look at her. The first thing he saw was the woman's grey eyes. He felt suffocated and his eyes turned sour. I'm sorry. I should have stopped, boss. Actually, you're very good to many of us. The woman only glanced at him and lowered her head again, not saying a word. Seeing such a lifeless person, Xiaoqing was filled with regret. I'm really sorry. This won't happen again in the future. Yang Yi only glanced at her, then turned and left. He couldn't tell what it was like to see her still alive. His heart actually relaxed a little, and the killing intent from before dissipated by a lot. But when he came back and saw Yang Nian in such a sorry state, he quickly abandoned that bit of sympathy. That woman was really lucky. The zombies didn't bully her. Qin Jiaran came over and helped Tang Guo up. She whispered in her ear, "It's time for you to live for yourself." I know. Everyone was surprised to receive an unexpected response from the woman. Then, they realized that the mist in her eyes had dispersed, and they had become indifferent and lifeless. Chapter 388. I was too stubborn and caused inconvenience to many people. I've already awakened my superpower, so you have to figure out your own food from now on. If you treat me well, I can help you with some food. As for Yang Yi and Yang Nian, I can't prepare food for them. She gently pushed Qin Jiaran's hand away and smiled at her. I'll take care of your food. I think you're quite pleasing to the eye. With that, she got into the car. Xiaoqing was a little dumbfounded, and the other members also looked at each other. This revenge came unexpectedly, and they didn't have time to react at all. My superpower is that I'm not afraid of zombies. They won't attack me, and I can go to any dangerous places. I can help the team avoid a lot of trouble, so my superpower should be very strong. Tang Guo sat in her seat and said word by word. She looked up. You don't have any objections, right? No. Xiaoqing, who was arranging the daily chores, reacted and said. Such a superpower was indeed very strong. It didn't take much effort to get the things they wanted. Their team was really strong to have such a person. Then let's go get the supplies. Tang Guo didn't give them time to react. She got out of the car and called Qin Jiaran. You drive. We'll go in and get the supplies. Qin Jiaran nodded and drove behind Tang Guo. Sure enough, she found that wherever Tang Guo was, zombies wouldn't attack. Soon, the whole car was filled with supplies. Xiao Qing had to call Yang Nian over and let her put the supplies into the space. Yang Nian was actually very scared. Tang Guo, who didn't have the space jade pendant, had awakened such a heaven-defying superpower. It was really terrifying. If zombies didn't attack Tang Guo, wouldn't she be invincible? The zombies just won't attack me. I can't control them. It doesn't matter if others know about this superpower. Hearing this, Yang Nian was relieved. Fortunately, it wasn't considered heaven-defying. It was just that she couldn't be attacked by zombies. She had only been teased by zombies before and hadn't been bitten. Did that also count as an ability that couldn't be attacked? She wasn't sure and didn't dare to try. When the Sunshine Squad returned to the base, Tang Guo went to report her ability, which indeed surprised the people in the base. Later, when he found out that her fighting ability was not strong, but she was not attacked by zombies, he was not so curious. At best, she had the ability to protect herself, not to control zombies, so there was no need to be afraid. But after that, Tang Guo's status rose. First, she had her own room in the villa. She didn't need to cook anymore. Every time she went out on a mission, she would go with him. Wherever there were zombies and items needed to be retrieved, she would go. Anyway, she was the one doing the most dangerous work. The team members really wanted to eat the food she cooked, but they didn't dare to say anything. They could only silently eat the dry food with tears in their eyes. Sometimes, there were even other teams that wanted to invite her to go on a mission together, and she would be given a lot of resources. Because of the awakening of her special ability, it brought a lot of benefits to the team. Later, there was a conflict between the higher-ups of the base, and the ability users also wanted to proclaim themselves as kings, causing chaos for a while. Many people came to rope in the Sunshine Squad, so Yang Yi took over Base 7 at lightning speed and renamed it Sunshine Base. He was indeed a very talented person. Soon, he took care of the base in an orderly manner, and the people in the base had better lives. Many ordinary people and ability users from other places were leaning towards Sunshine Base. Chapter 389. At the same time, similar situations were happening all over the country. Later, a few biological researchers came to the base and said that they needed a safe place to study the zombie virus. Yang Yi strongly supported them and gave them very good treatment. Yang Yi already knew that Yang Nian had a magical space. The two of them had a tacit understanding. In order to restore peace on the ground as soon as possible, he asked Yang Nian to take out the spring water in the space for the researchers to study. Before long, the treasure in Yang Nian's hands was very special and could suppress the zombie virus. It spread to all the bases. But the Sunshine Base developed quickly and everyone was very united. They were powerful and didn't dare to do anything. Ever since that time, Tang Guo didn't try to explain anything to Yang Yi. It was as if she had become a zombie who only knew how to collect supplies. No expression could be seen on her face. In the past, he could occasionally see her smile and sad look. But in a word, she was even colder than Qin Jiaran. Don't go out for a while. Many bases know that Yang Nian has a secret. There are many strangers outside the base, Qin Jiaran said. She stared at the woman who was leaning against the sofa and pretending to be asleep. She didn't understand what kind of person she was. Others might think that Tang Guo had become a tool, but she knew that wasn't the case. As long as one was careful, they would be able to see the teasing in this woman's eyes occasionally, as if she was playing an interesting game. After a long time, Qin Jiaran finally confirmed that this woman wasn't immersed in love and couldn't walk out. She seemed to be acting for something. If that was the case, she felt sorry for her. Is that so? Tang Guo looked up and smiled. It's that jade pendant, right? You knew. Qin Jiaran actually wanted to ask if she had known. Tang Guo chuckled. It's mine. How could I not know? She's really favored by the heavens. Qin Jiaran frowned. She hadn't heard Tang Guo talk about this in a long time. This time, she had a feeling that Tang Guo might be telling the truth. Perhaps the jade pendant was hers. If it was hers, Then wasn't Yang Nian lying? What do you think of zombies and humans coexisting? What? Qin Jiaran was slightly stunned. What do you mean by zombies and humans coexisting? How is that possible? Tang Guo smiled. If one day zombies don't bite people, but occupy a piece of land and develop a paradise, they will evolve to be the same as ordinary people, except that they are a little stronger. Do you think zombies and humans will coexist? Maybe humans have to seek protection from zombies. Qin Jiaran couldn't help but laugh. You're indulging in fantasy. That's impossible. Tang Guo smiled but didn't say anything. She decided to wait a little longer. When she left this place, the zombie empire would be exposed to the world. Would they panic then? Was he shocked? He wanted to know. Host, Shi Cheng has ordered someone to call you. In order to make Yang Yi hand you over, he deliberately didn't appear. He was afraid that Yang Yi would think that he knew Yang Nian and wouldn't dare to exchange you. Tang Guo raised her eyebrows. That's fast. It's a few years too early. I have to give him an assist so that he can successfully snatch me back. The system was speechless. See, sometimes the host had no moral integrity. Although he said no, he was actually very honest. Hey, where are you going? Qin Jiaran shouted. Tang Guo turned back and smiled. She cracked her fingers. I'm going to do something I really want to do. Chapter 390. Boss, something bad happened. Tang Guo broke into Nian Nian's office and they're fighting. Xiao Qing hurriedly ran to Yang Yi's side. Yang Yi was frowning because of the attack on the Sunset base. He couldn't care less and hurriedly left with Xiao Qing. The door of the office was closed. Hearing the sound inside, Yang Yi directly struck the door with lightning. When he went in, he saw that Yang Nian was being held by the collar by Tang Guo and beaten black and blue. Xiao Qing was stunned. It had been so many years. Was Tang Guo still holding a grudge and only exploded today? Give me back the jade pendant. Tang Guo said as she pinched the jade pendant around Yang Nian's neck. But she couldn't take it away. It was Yang Nian's. You already have Yang Yi, so give me back my family heirloom. Yang Nian pursed her lips. When she saw Yang Yi enter, her tears fell. Tang Guo was too heaven-defying. First, she awakened the ability to not be afraid of zombies. Later, someone had designs on her and awakened the strength ability. She was no match for them at all. She couldn't return Yang Yi. It was even more impossible to return the jade pendant. It was all hers. Let go of Nian Nian, Miss Tang. I thought you'd figured it out after all these years, but I didn't expect you to still be the same. I'm really disappointed. Tang Guo let go of the jade pendant and stared at Yang Yi. I just want to take back my things. I can't take back the person, but I want to take back a dead object like the jade pendant. It seems that a jade pendant has betrayed me. Tang Guo looked at the pitiful Yang Nian and raised her hand to slap her face. The sound of the slap stunned the members of the Sunshine team who came in. Why was this woman so violent? Okay, if you can't take it back, it's not too much for me to slap you twice, right? She walked in front of the furious Yang Yi and raised her hand to give him 2 slaps. Yang Yi's eyes widened. He didn't expect that Tang Guo would give him 2 slaps before he even made a move. The conflict was on the verge of erupting, and the two of them immediately started fighting. In the end, of course, it was Tang Guo who beat Yang Yi up. She especially hit his face. She was so powerful that everyone was stunned. Yang Yi was completely disgraced. In less than 2 days, the troops from the Sunset base finally surrounded the Sunshine base. The people from the Sunshine base wanted to fight them, but they didn't expect their weapons to be so terrifying. They even had nuclear weapons. Although they only used them to threaten them, they succeeded. Espers were powerful, but there were only a few who could avoid nuclear weapons. The entire base was built by all kinds of people. This battle could not be fought. Our boss said that as long as you hand over Yang Nian, we will retreat. We will give you half a day to consider. If you don't hand over Yang Nian after half a day, we will bomb the Sunshine base. Think about it carefully. Yang Yi was in a fit of anger. It was impossible for him to hand over Yang Nian. However, If the entire base was destroyed because of this, he would be a sinner. Yi, why don't you hand me over? They probably won't do anything to me. Yang Nian said pitifully. After taking the initiative to ask, Yang Yi definitely wouldn't hand her over. Even if Yang Yi agreed, the professors in the base wouldn't. Sure enough, after a while, the researchers barged in. Anyway, they were not allowed to hand over Yang Nian. Don't we have another special woman in our base? Why don't we let her replace Yang Nian? Those people have never seen Yang Nian. That woman wasn't bitten by zombies. They should be very interested in this situation, an old professor said. The others all agreed, expressing that it was feasible. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.